Hello everyone, this is Cosino Art. I am Paula Ilaria Cosino, and we are in your inner artist journey. As we go through this course, I just want you to remember that this is not about the goal. This is about the journey. Throughout this journey, you're gonna learn a lot about yourself, what you relate to, what kind of person you are, what do you like, maybe some things you haven't even realized or expected. And I want you to enjoy this journey as much as you would any vacation or any travel or experience, because basically this is a sort of a travel to your inner self. The funny fact is that in reality there is no perfection. And whenever we're learning something, we're going for this goal of becoming a professional, of becoming better. But the funny part is, it doesn't matter how good you get, how professional you get, even how recognized you get, there is always where to grow. There is always a way to get better. And that's part of the reason why I don't want you to stress out. I don't want you to blame yourself. I don't want you to be too hard on yourself. And don't even try to criticize yourself. Because right now you're learning. You should really cheer yourself up, pat yourself on the back, because you are on this journey already, and that's a big step. You already made the first step towards your inner artist, and that's a lot. Especially if you have been doing your homework assignment or going along with me in the videos, or I'm sure some of you even took an extra step and actually did some more drawings on your own, and that's a lot. So it doesn't matter, even if it's not exactly what you wanted it to be, you already have something. You're already a step ahead of where you were yesterday, and that's a lot. Just keep that in mind as we go through this journey, because you need to have a special, positive mindset. Otherwise, there's nowhere to grow. Which brings me to first part of our today's class, perfectionism. Now, I don't know if you think that you are perfectionist, if you would call yourself that in normal life. But interestingly enough, I found that a lot of my students who are not exactly perfectionists in their life found themselves perfectionists when it comes to art. And it's interesting, because in art, there is no perfection. And so one of the main rules that I have in this course is going to be in this class. One of our most important rules is don't be a perfectionist. Be a productive artist. Because the downside of being a perfectionist is basically you can't be one. In art, there is no perfection. There is always a way to grow. There's always ways to get better. And because art is subjective, nobody can really tell you what is perfect. A lot of people, when they just start to study art, feel like they have to nail it down. They have to be perfect. You know, they feel intimidated by the empty page, and when they buy a new sketchbook, they feel like they should fill it out perfectly. Every drawing needs to be a masterpiece. There is no judgment when it comes to art. There is no perfection. Art is about you. What do you have inside of you? What do you like? What do you relate to? And because of that, we're all so different and so subjective that there is really no way to tell what is perfect. When people start to study art, or sometimes even artists that have been studying or working for a long time, have this problem where they're taking a lot of time on a drawing because they wanted to nail it down, because they wanted to be perfect. And in the end, they end up just doing one drawing in days, sometimes months. And if that's part of your process, that's fine. But you need to be careful and analyze yourself. Because if the reason that you cannot finish one painting in such a long time, or even a sketch, is because you feel like it's not good enough, I want it to be perfect, you will never get anywhere. Because instead of dwelling on an artwork that maybe you don't really like it, maybe you chose a subject that you realized later you didn't really like, or it wasn't important for you enough, but now you want it to be perfect, don't. Because in the end, you're not gonna get better by just dwelling on this same artwork where you could be creating so much more. You could be sketching, you could be learning, you could switch a subject. And that is why I want you to remember that you should not be a perfectionist. Be productive. Say in your assignment, for example, if you've been doing your homework, if you drew one of a search copy paste exercises and say you didn't like it, but you felt like you have to keep going until it's perfect. And so you spent hours and hours drawing it, redrawing it, erasing it. And where it got you? Nowhere. Instead, say if you were not very happy with it, you could draw another one. You can completely change a subject. You can change a media, you can change a subject, you can change colors, you can change anything and everything you want, as long as you're creating something. In the past, there was this perfectionism in actual education, in academical level, where in schools they would want you to nail it down, they would want you to be perfect. But again, what is perfect? In school educational mindset, it would be like, for example, if you're drawing a still life, it has to be perfect. It has to be exact. It has to be as close to reality as it is. But then what is fun of copying reality if it has nothing to do with you? If it doesn't show or tell anything about you? It's not really art in that case. In that case, it's just printmaking or photographing. And while I do respect artists that do realistic paintings, the reason they do those photorealistic paintings usually has to do with them liking it. So don't try to be a perfectionist. Try to look for yourself. Try to figure out what do you like, what do you want to show, what kind of theme you want to talk about. I used to be kind of a perfectionist when it came to my art at one point of life. In that period of time, I ended up getting very, very little done. Not only that, I was very uninspired because I was constantly unhappy with how it turned out. I would try and draw this painting and I wasn't happy with it, so I would do something on top of it, that same painting, or I would fix it, or I would draw and erase it, and it was a very frustrating experience. But what I didn't realize at the time was that the most horrible thing about it was that I wasn't productive, and I was getting frustrated with myself and with art because I didn't feel like it's giving me anything. I didn't feel like it's, reflecting me, and it just felt horrible. And so when you start to draw something, it is important to keep in mind that you're only doing this for you. Art shouldn't be for anyone other than yourself, because that's the only way you will keep it satisfying for you. That's also part of a reason how some artists get uninspired and frustrated when they have to work for big companies and do artworks that don't reflect them at all, is because art is very personal. It's very intimate. In your drawing, you're reflecting your reality, yourself. What do you love? What do you see? How do you see life? What bothers you? Anything and everything should be in your art. We pour our souls. We tell our secrets in our drawings. And then what makes it so satisfying? That's why we love it. And I know in this course I'm gonna talk a lot about drawing just because that's one of my favorite medias and that's what I do most. That also applies to all of the other medias and styles, all of the other arts. I want you to remember that this course is not about drawing. Even though, again, I do give a lot of examples and I do show you a lot of my artworks which are drawn or, you see me drawing. But I want you to remember that everything I talk about here applies to all of the different medias. Music, sculpting, dancing, all of that. Because it doesn't matter the media or the way we express ourselves through art. Art is subjective and art is always personal. So if the form of art that you chose is music, it's gonna reflect you. If the form of art you chose is sculpting, it's gonna reflect you. And if you are a perfectionist in either one of those, you're not gonna be very productive and you're not gonna get very far from where you started. So keep in mind, when I do talk about those things, they apply to all kinds of art forms. So now I want you to take your sketchbook, the one that you started in the beginning of this course, and write down don't be a perfectionist, be a productive artist. Like with big, big letters. Because this is something that I taught all of my students. And once they've learned that, they went so far in their progress. Their work started to be so much more than it was just because they were not perfectionists. And on that note, here is the first part of your homework assignment. You're gonna wanna take your sketchbook. Right after the part where you wrote, don't be a perfectionist, be a productive artist. And right there, I want you to fill out 3 pages. Now, it doesn't matter what you're gonna fill it out with. You can draw, you can collage, you can do some mixed media. It can be any media, any shape or form. You can try to draw some people, you can try to copy some artwork, it doesn't matter. The goal here is to fill out each page. But the fun part is you have a time limit. So take out your phone before you start to draw a first page, set a timer, and you've got 20 minutes. So once you set a timer, you only have 20 minutes to draw whatever you want to draw. And once you're done, once the 20 minutes are up, it's done. You move out to the next artwork. And I don't want you to go back to the first one. If you ever feel like you like how it turned out and you want to, finish it, I want you to draw it again in the future. But for this assignment, you only have 20 minutes. So once 20 minutes is up, you're done. Next artwork. It can be any media, it can be any theme, it doesn't matter. Most importantly, getting stuff done in 20 minutes. Because at the moment you're learning, it's important to remember that, when you see other artists work and you see their process, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's one and the only way. Every single artist actually have their very own process to how they do and create. What they start with, what's their technique. And I think it's important to find your own. That's how you actually get to your style at the end of it. And that's why it's so important for you to experiment and try all of the different process, all of the different ways. And we're going to talk about media in the future classes, but today, let's just talk about you. Right now, it's important to figure out what do you like. It's important to understand what kind of style attracts you. What kind of mood you like in the artwork. And for that, you should really dive in. See more artworks, as many as you can. There are many ways to see all different kinds of art. You can go to a gallery, to exhibition. You can check out the local bookshop. Usually, a lot of bookshops nowadays have an art section where they sell art books. So I think that's a good way to start. And of course, there is internet. The reason I told you to start with exhibitions or books is just because they are more limited in choice. You don't get lost. Where internet is so overwhelming with information that I don't want you to get intimidated and confused when you're looking for something that you like. We're not ruling out the internet. So after you check out some books, maybe some exhibitions, depending on your situation, what you can and cannot do, then the internet is going to be a next step. So we already talked about Pinterest, and honestly, I feel like it's a very great tool for every single artist. I have Pinterest app on all of my devices just because this way it's very convenient for me to look for references whenever I need them. Another great tool is Instagram. Nowadays, Instagram gets more and more popular with artists. The community is getting bigger and bigger, and because of that, you can find so many different beautiful artworks there just by using hashtags. That's usually a great inspiration resource for me too. The difference between Pinterest and Instagram in that case is that Pinterest has a really good stable database. So wherever you have a keyword, it will give you plenty of information. It's very good for storing, like the boards, like we've learned in the very first class. And I encourage you to use that board as much as you can throughout the whole journey or even more, because that's going to be very useful for you, not only to get references whenever you need to, but also to see how the style that you like changes, to see this progress. Instagram and Pinterest are, of course, different. Even though Pinterest have a very stable and quality content, they're not as up-to-date and fresh as Instagram, because Instagram has different algorithms and they update their stuff every day, where Pinterest, a lot of times after using it for a while, you will find that you keep running into same photos, same images. And while it is still very useful, sometimes when you need something fresh or something undiscovered, I will go to Instagram for that. And so now the main task for us is to figure out what do you like. Because once you do, you will start to realize, okay, this is the kind of style I like. How do I get there? Can I try to repeat it? What do I like from it? Maybe you like the way certain artists using lighting, but at the same time, maybe you not necessarily want to use the same media. Or alternatively, maybe you like the style that this artist uses, but you don't really like the subject. For example, maybe there's an artist drawing in a very, very beautiful style, but she or he is drawing only like beautiful girls, and you would rather see something more interesting, like with a story, or maybe some animals or creatures. And so the great thing about it is when we discover what we like and analyze why, we start to figure out, okay, now I know what I like, I know why, how do I take that part that I like and use it in my work? For example, if you have an artist you really like, maybe you like the style he uses, maybe you like the colors, but you don't really like the theme, or maybe you don't really relate to the theme that he's talking about, then you can try and learn this technique that he uses, or figure out how he does it, and then talk about your story, create something based on you, what you relate to. There is a really great book I wanted to recommend you about this theme. It's by Blake Hansen and it's called Still Like an Artist. So basically, the book is talking about how everything in the world, doesn't matter art related or not, is in a way stolen from somebody else's idea, because nowadays there is not really original one-of-a-kind ideas, because everything we do unconsciously repeats something that somebody else did. And sometimes you can even see people might come up with the same idea at the same time and think that it's their own idea, and then find out that there are other people that just had this same idea, maybe some invention made. So because of that, there is really nothing 100% original. We all steal from each other. And that is why you should remember that when you work too, and when you learn from other artists. Because by looking at other artists' works, analyzing it, copying some parts, learning from them, you're just learning and trying to figure out who you are and what your very own unique style is like. I want you to remember that, because when I was young, plagiarism was a very weird subject that a lot of people didn't understand. And because of that, I felt like if I was to copy somebody's artwork that I really like, it would be like stealing it. There were teachers in my school that would say that, if you copy somebody's artwork, even for fun, it's just plagiarism and you shouldn't do it and it's wrong. So when I was a kid, there was a time when I was trying to copy artworks I really liked just because I liked them. I wasn't gonna say it's mine or sell it anywhere. I was just a kid. But my teachers told me it was wrong and kind of guilted me. And because of that, I actually stopped learning from copying work for many years from then. And it affected me so much that it was actually hard for me to start learning from other artists' artwork until not very long ago. Here's the thing. Those two things we just talked about, they go together. In order to find out your style, you cannot be a perfectionist. You need to be productive. And so, at first, it's important to find out what you like, which means you're gonna get searching. And for the second part of your assignment, you will be looking for things that you like. Remember we created a Pinterest board? So I want you to go out, if you can, find out some art books that you like, find out maybe some exhibitions that allow you to take pictures. And once you find something that you like, or even if, say, you're walking down the street and there is an advertisement and you just like how it looked, take a picture. So just take a picture of all of those things and collect it on your phone. You can also browse in Instagram or Pinterest. The most important thing is to find out things that you like. And it has to be at least 20 images. So now you should have at least 10 of them from your previous exercise, and now you need to add 20 more. Once you save all of these images in a board, look through them, analyze them, and in your sketchbook, write out what are the things that they have in common. Write out keywords of what do I like. So basically, first you need to write a list. What do I like? And then just list the things that you like from those images that you saved. Maybe all of them, they have beautiful girls drawings, but in different style. So that means that you would be interested in drawing people. Maybe they all have nature. Maybe they all are watercolor techniques. Maybe they're all dark. Maybe they're all cozy theme. Maybe they're all atmospheric. They have beautiful light. What do they have in common? And once you write it out, you'll start to understand what kind of style you like. Now, do you remember what we talked about in the beginning of our course about trying? So that's something you should be doing all the time. Don't even wait for me to tell you to try something. You need to be trying different styles and different techniques all the time, every time you can. And we are going to talk about different kind of medias in the future too. But I just want you to remember that, because even when you will be finding out what images do you like, what artworks attract you and why, that doesn't mean that you have to be only limited to that. You can choose to try different things. You can try to play around. You can try different styles. You can try different techniques. And so it's important to try out different things to help you narrow down what do you like. After you save those 20 images in your Pinterest and you start narrowing down your list in terms of what do I like, what should I use, try to draw something like that. You can use a copy, search, paste technique, or you can just try it on your own depending on your skill, because there is no judgment here. And again, you can only improve if you try. So try to create something like that. Maybe choose two totally different and opposite themes. For example, maybe in your 20 images you saved a really cheerful and beautiful photo of sunflowers, but then on the other image that you saved is all dark and depressing or scary. You can try to do both and see what you enjoy more. During this course, we will be going through different medias, and I will be demonstrating some of them, like you see me drawing right now too. But also I want you to remember that everything is in your hands, and if there is a media that you would like to learn, something you want to try that I haven't showed you yet, look for tutorials on YouTube. For example, maybe you are interested about pastel and you don't even know if I'm going to introduce pastel as a media in this course or not. So why don't you go to YouTube and check out some pastel tutorials just to see how different people do it. But make sure to check out different people's process, because like I said, we are discovering you and your very own process. So if you learn from multiple artists, see their different process, how everybody do all of those different things, you can take the best of it. You can choose what you like from this process and keep it. For example, in a copy, search, paste exercise I showed you, I was inspired by the work of artist Killing Sloops that I admire. And I watched a lot of his YouTube videos at the time just to figure out how he does it and see what I like about it and what do I want to adopt in my style. And the technique I actually adapted from him and I really like is using white ink on top of the watercolors. And that's something I do in my works a lot nowadays. But that doesn't mean that I'm using the entire process that he does. A lot of things that he does, I don't do at all, or I do differently. So the point here is, when you go and you find an artist or multiple artists and you watch them work, it doesn't mean that you have to repeat their entire process. You can just choose what exactly you like about his process, what can you adopt, what would you want to try. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. By the end of this course, you are gonna have to finish this sketchbook. And finish a sketchbook can be a lot. That is why I do advise you to do all of the homework that you do. And, if there is a place, for example, you've decided to learn about different media, or you've watched a tutorial you want to try it in your sketchbook. Because this sketchbook is basically a diary of your process, a diary of your journey. And so then looking back, you would be able to trace all of the steps that you went through. And this is very important for your process. Okay, we've talked about perfection. We've talked about trying. We've talked about being productive. And something I mentioned earlier is that a lot of artists, doesn't matter if they have just begun their artist journey or they've been on it for years and years, a lot of us, we get intimidated by an empty, perfectly clean sketchbook. A lot of my students have that problem too, where when they begin a sketchbook, they kind of feel intimidated. They feel like it's new, it's beautiful, I want to make it perfect, I want to make it masterpiece. And that's why when they begin, they feel like by creating artwork, they're actually ruining a sketchbook. And that's ridiculous. I want you to remember that's ridiculous. The whole reason you have this sketchbook is because this is your diary. This is a place where you document your journey. And just like with a diary, you shouldn't be so nitty-picky about it. And there is a little trick I picked up from one of the artists throughout the years, and I've been using it with my students beautifully. It really helps artists, especially those who feel intimidated by a white empty page, to just come out of their shell and start working. It really helps them to feel like they're not ruining the sketchbook. And you're gonna have to do this exercise as your homework too, so get ready. Okay, final exercise. And I know for some of you that might feel weird or painful. A lot of students laugh or don't understand why we do this. So you're gonna want to take your brand new sketchbook and spill a coffee on it. It can be a coffee, it can be a tea, it can be juice, as long as it has color. Spill a coffee on it. If you already drew and wrote some of the exercises we went through throughout this journey, just open it to the page where it's empty. Basically open it to the point where it's new and spill it over there. Spill it right there. Because as soon as the sketchbook loses its perfection, as soon as you spill something on it, it's ruined anyway. So psychologically, you are less likely to blame yourself or feel pressure, because the last thing I want you to feel is pressure. This journey is all about you finding yourself, and you need to be in peace with it. So spill something. I prefer to spill coffee just because I like the smell. On your sketchbook, let it dry, and then keep on working on it. I no longer have this intimidation in front of an empty page. I no longer feel this fear or pressure because of it. But for the sake of this exercise, here is my brand new sketchbook. I haven't touched it yet. And we are going to spill something on it, so we can do it together. I recommend, if you're at home or in a cafe where you have access to bathroom, to do it in front of a sink, just because this way it's a little bit cleaner. Ta-da! See, it wasn't too hard. I hope you spilled something on your sketchbook too by now. If you haven't, go to the sink, do that as well. And again, it has to have color. It should not be perfectly white. So you cannot use water or milk. Use something dark, juice, coffee, tea, something that has color. As you know, this entire class was dedicated to just talking about what you like and finding out things about yourself and what you relate to. And so the final part of this assignment will be answering the questions I included below. You should write them down in your sketchbook and then write answers to them. Because again, we do use the sketchbook as your journey diary. So it is better if you do all of your homework and everything that you write down in there. So it's kind of all in the same place. All right, this would be it for today's class. Have a great day. Stay inspired. Stay positive. Keep on learning. And I will see you next week.